I always had a sort of feeling for the army. I was quite an active guy, but it was really my mother who gave me the big push because I was starting to I was getting in a bit of trouble with the police and being a bit of a naughty boy. So she kind of gave me that push to get into the army, and yeah, so she gave me the elbow really, and I'm glad she did. Well, I've served I'll have served 18 years this September. I joined it when I was 17. The biggest change, um, that's hard to say really. I think I noticed certainly from my recruiting role now, I noticed a big change, like a generation change. So that the type of guy that joins the army now, guy and girl really, there's a massive. You probably heard the term PlayStation generation. They're probably not as active as we were when we were kids. They kind of have different sort of morals and beliefs, and they're kind of just a different type of individual. Not better or worse, just different. You know, so I think that's probably the biggest change I've noticed in my time in the army. Is the type of person that joins now quite different. Missions wise, I've served in Northern Ireland. My first tour there was in 1999, and then I've done a 2 year tour in Northern Ireland from 2001 to 2002. So that was like a 2 year residential. Quite relaxed coming in out of camp. That was quite a good tour. I deployed to Iraq in 2005, but I had a medical issue, so I didn't stay there too long. I didn't even qualify for a medal. You've got to do, I think it's 30 days. So I didn't even do that long, so I had to come home. And I've served two tours of Afghanistan, 2007 and 2009. So yeah, that's the operations I've been on. Yeah, like I say, it was in Northern Ireland in 1999. We called it the Millennium Tour because it was a winter tour. So we basically we spanned from, you know, spanned over the change over the centuries. And I was in Falkhill in South Armagh, which is right sort of on the border of north and south. And I worked in intelligence, basically called the intelligence platoon, sort of gathering information about different potential suspects in Northern Ireland at the time, collating information, that sort of thing. So it was for me to do that as a first tour was massively interesting. Um, and generally, people who've got quite a bit of experience do that kind of role. And for me to be a young guardsman doing it then was really quite exciting and quite a lot of pressure as well. But made the tour really interesting, and I thoroughly enjoyed it actually. Yeah. Although in terms of it wasn't very kinetic. You know, there wasn't much war fighting, or because it was quite a quiet time then at the end of the 90s. But it was still massively interesting. I learnt a lot. You know. So yeah, it was a really good tour for a young guardsman to do. First of all, you know, how it worked out was we were based in Windsor at the time before we deployed, and I was what they call an orderly or a batman, you might be in. So I basically looked after an officer and done his kit for Queen's Guard, and basically sort of waited on him, for want of a better word. And he was going to be the intelligence officer on the tour. He was a young captain at the time, and because he knew me quite well, he recommended me for that role. So basically, that's how it worked out, and I went and worked with him over in Northern Ireland. Sort of real opposite ends of the scale, if you like, from how it was quite a sort of benign tour of Northern Ireland. Although I've mentioned it was very interesting, it wasn't very kinetic or wary, if you like, for want of a better word. And then going to Afghanistan for two tours was again the opposite end of the scale. Very kinetic, a lot of war fighting. So in terms of the two tours, they were opposite ends of the scale, really. Um, I think, like I said, I didn't spend a lot of time in Iraq. I was only there less than a month, so I didn't really get a feel for that tour. Um, so I generally based my experience on Northern Ireland and Afghanistan. And again, like, to reiterate, there were two opposite ends of the scale in terms of operational tours. You know, one being fairly quiet, and like I said, I was a collator then. I was a medic in Afghanistan for two tours, and they were very busy kinetic tours. Not, you know, needless to say, I probably enjoyed the kinetic side more. 'Cause that's part of being an infantry soldier, you know. So yeah, totally different, really. I think there's a lot more support for the military now. It's impossible for them to really understand those conflicts. Um, I, until I didn't understand them. Although I'm in a service background, and I was trained to go there. Until you experience it, you don't really understand it, and the impact you're having in the job you're doing. So I think, yeah, certainly support-wise, the public are fantastic now, and they give us a lot more support than we ever used to, certainly back in the days of Northern Ireland. But yeah, so support-wise, fantastic. Whether they understand it, I'm probably the wrong person to ask. You probably have to ask members of the public. Do you know what I mean? But I think, like I say, until you experience those types of conflicts or those types of experiences, it's kind of impossible to understand it, isn't it? I suppose that's just natural. But yes, we do get some fantastic support. There's no doubt about that. So with regards to my last tour in Afghanistan, which was called Op Eric 11, 2009 to 2010, I was a medic in a patrol base, a place called PB4, Patrol Base 4 in Nari Saraj in Helmand Province. So part of my daily routine, let's say I was a medic, so I had a team of 4 guys with me, who were also as qualified as me, but I was the senior guy there, so I kind of had to manage what patrols the guys went on, because they used to have medical cover on every patrol, and there was sometimes up to 3 or 4 patrols per day, going out from the patrol base, providing security in the local area. So I had to manage my team in terms of who went on what patrol. I was part of that rotation as well, so I'd find myself on patrol pretty much every day, due to the amount of patrols that were going on, because it was where we were based was it was kind of the last line of defence. So you had PB 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we were sort of the furthest away from any kind of assistance, if you like. It was an austere location, and again, it was very connected because you were at the forward line of enemy troops, so you were coming in contact with a lot of enemies with no one else around you, sort of thing. So there was a lot of reassurance patrols to reassure the local community, a lot of security patrols, and just trying to push the Taliban back. So with that amount of patrolling, again, as the lads were, the medics were very, very busy. So again, that was mainly our daily routine, was going out and assisting on patrols. So you could be out on the ground for an hour doing a quick security patrol, or you could be out for 3 or 4 hours longer. There was also, we used to do company ops where basically the whole of the PB bar a little bit of local security would go out on and off for a couple of days. So you could be doing that. And if you went out on patrol, we had a regimental aid post inside the PB, which had to be manned 24 hours a day for anything that happened inside camp or potentially locals that came in. So that was basically our daily routine. You were either manning the RAP or you're out on the ground on patrols. So it was very, very busy. We had a medical officer with us as well, a young female captain, who was fantastic. And she generally didn't go on patrol, so she dealt a lot with the in-camp stuff, if you like, dealing with injured locals potentially, or any serious injuries that come back into camp. So it was a massive help having her with us as well. Yeah, so basically, like I said, that was our daily routine, was patrols and running the RAP. Sounds very simple, but what I didn't really anticipate before I got there was how much you deal with the local population as well. I was kind of trained to look after soldiers, and they're quite an easy bunch to deal with. They get on with it, and if they get injured, they crack on. That's what they do. Dealing with the local population was a bit more of a challenge. Not just with in terms of how you treat them, but the language barrier. You had to have an interpreter with you to speak to them, find out what was wrong. We used to run clinics for them. They come in with minor scrapes or minor complaints. So just getting out of them what was up with them. That was probably the biggest challenge. Dealing with the local population. And like I said, we used to invite them freely into camp. They started getting better as as they realised we were good at doing our job, and actually we really welcomed them with open arms. We started to see a lot more of them as well. Certainly, as the security situation improved, as we pushed the enemy back, you start to see a lot more civilians coming into the camp and getting treatment from you. So that was a sign that we were actually doing a really good job. So that was quite reassuring. So yeah, certainly dealing with soldiers in terms of medical was one issue. dealing with civilians and particularly children was a huge challenge. Something that I really enjoyed as well, you know. So yeah, that, I mean, as a medic, that's what Afghanistan was to me, you know. And although it sounds fairly repetitive, no 2 days were the same really, because you'd be patrolling at different locations, you know, you'd be dealing with different incidents or dealing with potentially different injuries, or you know, always something different going on. And it was a really kind of exciting time really, although you work massively hard, but it's really quite exciting. So it was a good experience. Something I'll cherish really, although like I say, it was austere and it was difficult conditions to live in, you know, but the lads around you make it all really good, and you all stick together as a team, and it's good memories. So yeah, that's kind of Afghanistan in a nutshell really for me. Like I say, when we first arrived in location, the patrol base was a fairly new location. It had only been established for a couple of months by the unit that was there before us. So basically, when we got there, we didn't really have a relationship with the local population. That relationship was built up over the months that we were there. Let's say, given we had the first issue was solving the security issue, pushing the enemy back, and we strived hard to do that in the first couple of months. Once they realised that we were proficient at that and we started to gain their trust, then we'd start to see a lot more locals. I don't really recall sort of personal relationships, seeing the same people all the time in that sense. You had your elders from the villages who would come for shuras or meetings all the time, but I never really got involved in them. In terms of building up long-term relationships with locals, I didn't experience that personally. I didn't really see that many people that often. You know, from a medic standpoint, I'd see someone treat them and you'd probably never see them again. The only person I probably saw more than once was I remember a young girl. She must have been about 4 or 5. They're quite vague with their ages out there. They don't really take note of how old they are. They kind of just they don't celebrate birthdays, I believe. So she was about 4 or 5. And her family was cooking in the yard one day, and the pot had fell over and burnt her leg from sort of like mid-shin down to her foot. So we saw her over a period of weeks, so we had to dress her wound. But she always come in with someone different. So the little girl certainly didn't know any English. So she used to come in, let's say, with an uncle, or one week it would be a brother or someone else. So although we saw this young girl quite a lot, it was always a different person coming in and chatting to us, you know, for whatever reason, I don't know. But yeah, she sticks out in my mind as probably the only person that we saw on a repetitive basis, like because of the type of the nature of the wound that she had. We had to dress it quite a bit, you know, over a number of weeks. But despite her injury, she was a lovely little girl. You know, she's so chatty. Well, not chatty to us, but to her family. Very smiley, you know, and it was a really nasty injury that she had. As you can imagine, it was quite bad burns, you know, from this boiling pot. To be honest, I kind of approached both tours of Afghanistan with a bit of an open mind in terms of the local populace. I mean, we knew what sort of enemy we were facing, a very tough and determined enemy, so we were very focused on that. Didn't really know what to expect from the local population, and actually what I found was, for the most part, that they're quite cut off from the reality of why we are there, and the reality of who the Taliban are in a lot of places. So again, in one hand, they're quite keen to welcome you to their country. They're very hospitable. On the other hand, they do have that element of fear from the Taliban in terms of reprisals if they're friendly to NATO troops and what have you, or ISAF troops. So you kind of got that. You can see that they want to be friendly, and they are, like I say, very hospitable people. But they do have that fear of reprisals. So again, it's hard to forge relationships unless the security situation is right, as you can understand, you know. And we were just kind of starting to gain that where we were, and then obviously you leave after 6 months or so, then that relationship diminishes again. So I think, certainly in my opinion of the local population from before and after, I was very impressed with the type of people that they are. They're very resourceful, again, like I say, very, very friendly. And you know, let's face it, most parts of certainly Helmand province, it's a third world country. They've got nothing to live with, and they just kind of crack on with their lives, you know. And they're a very tough, resilient people, quite often you'll see guys, you'd be out on patrol and guys are being like what you call a fire position, so they're maybe on the ground facing a certain way, and you might see guys coming out of villages with chai or tea and giving it to the guys. They don't have to do that. Certainly not to do that, but it just shows you their hospitality, and their kind nature. So yeah, my overall view of the local population is a positive one, certainly. Certainly a positive one, in terms of their pride of what I've achieved. I think the toughest part for families is always when you go away on tour, or on operations, or whatever you want to call it. The guys in the army are trained for it, and they build up to it for many months, and they're good to go. Your families don't get any training. They've just kind of got to deal with you going away, and you're taken from them for X amount of months. Unfortunately, some are taken away permanently, and then they're not trained for that. So really, tours are the hardest on your family. Again, soldiers are resilient. We can deal with just about anything. We're a silly bunch. We've got a good sense of humour. It's the families I really feel for when these tours happen, because like I say, you just, whether it's your family, whether it's the brother, the husband, the son, whoever, they're just dragged away for X amount of months, and there's that void in their lives. And how do they cope with that? Because nobody tells them how to do it. So it's toughest on the families for sure. But in terms of certainly with my family, in terms of my whole career, they're massively proud of what I've achieved, and it gives them a sense of pride of what I've done, and that makes me feel better about who I am as well. I think for some people it's harder. Um, I certainly, it doesn't bother me, but I like to be in contact with my family. But some people who can do that, they find that there's no disconnect between them and the family, so they're many miles away from and the fact that they can see them but can't hold them or kiss them or whatever makes it even harder to be aware. If there's a complete disconnect, which I've been on operations before where you just have no contact with your family, I find that a bit easier. 'Cause, yeah, you miss your family like crazy, of course you do, particularly if you've got children, which I don't. Particularly if you've got children, but I think it's easier if you have that complete disconnect, for me anyway. And because if you can see someone on, say, Skype or whatever it is you use on the on an internet camera or whatever, you can be so close to them yet so far away, and that sometimes makes it a bit harder, I think, certainly on a lot of people. So I think when I've been disconnected, that's been easier for me. I don't think it really impacts any preparations at all, really. Again, for some people, it's comforting to know that they can be in contact with their family. And when you're out there, there's nothing better than receiving a letter or, like having a phone call. It's great for morale. But I think in terms of preparations for you going away, it's not really something you mostly think about. Certainly doesn't impact your training. You're 100% into your training, but it's nice to know that you can have that, again, connection if you want it with your family. So I suppose like I said, I'll go back to people who've got kids. It's probably more important for them who can talk to their kids on a regular basis and have that connection. So that, yeah, in terms of your preparation, I don't really think it's really something anybody thinks about, to be honest. It just kind of happens. It sounds like a bit of a cliche, but you make lifelong friends in the army. I'm sure you do in other services as well, but in the army, I think the bond you get with these guys when you're out in these austere places is something that can A, never be understood, and B, never be replaced. I thought I had good friends when I went on tour, and then when I come back, I realised I had best friends. And you bonded to the experiences without you even realising, really. You come back and you think, oh, I was in such and such with this guy, and you realise how good a guy they were, and they had your back. So I think friendships that you gain in the army are, like I said, they're lifelong, and it's a bond that you never get anywhere else in the world. I think that's a common theme. A lot of soldiers will tell you that. They'll say that whenever anybody leaves the services as well, the people they always or the thing they always miss is the people they work with. You can get the work, you do the work anyway, but it's the people you're with. The camaraderie is second to none, really. So yeah, I learned a lot about my friends when I was on tour, certainly, and they probably learned a lot about me as well. So yeah, best friends for life, no doubt about it. Yeah. I think mostly just photographs, really. Just take photos. I've got 4 nieces and a nephew. Um, I, I generally just take photographs with me. Really, I don't really take anything else from home. That in that sense, because you know you're going into a fairly austere environment, so you just want to minimise what you take. Really, the less kit you take, the better. Apart from the essentials, So basically, just a folder with a load of photographs is what I take, and then you can wherever you find yourself, you can always stick photographs up. So that's quite a good comfort for me. You might say they're unpopular wars or whatever, but I don't think it's dwindled the support of the nation in terms of our soldiers. Certainly, our support has got much better. I hark back to when we were in Northern Ireland. It wasn't that wasn't very popular either on the streets of England, but certainly our popularity has raised, and gone up massively through or Iraq and Afghanistan may be contentious, but it hasn't dwindled the support of the public at all in terms of supporting the troops. Whether they're contentious or not is for the politicians to decide. It's not, we're the soldiers is what we do. But I think our support again, it's been raised exponentially by these conflicts. So I don't really think the fact of how these wars started is really an issue for us. Really, we just see the love and support from the public. You get a lot of what they call welfare packages when you're out there, and they can turn it and they'll just be addressed to, it'll say a soldier, so it can go to anybody. And you see the time and thought and love and effort that people have put into making these packages for you. It can be simple things like, it's a bit of shower gel or it's some jellies or something like that, it's just a little welfare package. But the fact that somebody took the time to do that, buy the stuff, put it in a box, wrap it up, take it to the post office, it's a lot of effort for someone that you don't know. So it just shows that you actually, like I say, the love and support you get back home is phenomenal, and someone takes the time just to think about you when you're away, and they don't have to do that, but they do, and that does absolutely raise your morale and spurs you on to do well and do the best job you can. So they used to arrive quite regularly, you'd get a chopper come in with loads of parcel coming off the back, mixed in with mail that's actually directed to you, from family and friends or whatever, and then there'll just be welfare packages, so they try to even them out equally amongst the lads. There might be some guys who don't get many packages, whether they're single or they haven't got family or whatever. They try to even them out and give them, so everybody gets a bit of morale. So they used to come by the helicopter load, the welfare packages. Honestly, yeah. Particularly around if you're on a winter tour at Christmas, there was actually that much stuff that they couldn't move it from Camp Bastion to the forward troops because there was that much of it. It just had to end up going in ISO containers and getting fed through to the troops when they could because there was that much of it. It's just little comforts, really. Things that you think about that you probably can't get over there that you might miss. Even if it's something like a pot noodle, or, like I say, or a nice bit of shower gel that you can use, a pack of playing cards, you can entertain yourself, or just little trinkets that don't cost a lot of money, but just remind you of home and things that you can't get your hands on out there because you're in an austere location. You don't have a shop you can just go to. So it's just, like I say, they're not massively expensive, but it's just little trinkets that remind you of home, really. So yeah, it means a lot. It's an area that the army's getting much better at in terms of, I know PTSD is a big thing, and I'm a believer that if you've been on a kinetic or an austere tour, I think everybody suffers PTSD to a degree, no matter how mentally tough you think you are or whatever. Everybody suffers PTSD from what you've seen and what you've done. Again, the type of individual you are will dictate how you deal with that. Some people deal with it well, some people not so well, but it's always there in the background. And I think just coming home is just you just gotta take your time and just wean yourself back into normal society, really, because you've been in it. You could have been away for up to like 9 months, doing a very very physically and mentally challenging job, and to just come back into not doing that, it's a massive adjustment for anybody. So, and at the end of your tour, I don't know if you're aware, you get like what they call a decompression package, where you spend a few days in Cyprus. It's like kind of chilling out, going down the beach, having a barbecue, maybe some entertainment, a couple of beers, designed to kind of get it out of your system, and it does really. It chills you out. Then you fly home, and hopefully like I say, it works for some people, it doesn't work for others, depending on the type of individual you are. But the army does think about it a lot more now, decompressing, you know, and just trying to get guys back into normal society, which is what we do when we're here. We're part of the sort of fabric of the country, and you know, we're just normal people when we're here. Go out on the street, go drinking, whatever. So we are becoming a lot more switched on to this decompression and sort of just getting back into normal life. It is a big thing, and I think we've took it for granted for a long time, but now we're quite good at it. But I've got to admit, it is very difficult. I consider myself quite a relaxed character, quite laid back, but even I find myself sort of snapping at little things when I come home, you know, biting people's heads off, you know, in like maybe an argument or something like that. And it's not my character, but it's just a way of getting out the things that you've gone through. You know what I mean? And it can creep up on you at any time. You know, you find yourself snapping and you don't really know why, but it's just part of what you've been through. And it does go out your system eventually. You know, you get over it, and then you just start getting back into normal ways, really. But yeah, the adjustment it's definitely tough, and like I say, it's worse for some people than it is others. But I believe it's character driven, really, or personality driven. You know, if you're the type of person that's susceptible to sort of mental stress or anything like that, then I think you struggle a bit more coming back. Very tough. I mean, it gets kind of you can get up to sort of 40 degrees plus and up to the 50s. And when you consider the amount of kit you're carrying as well, it's very hard. Again, it's something you can't really train. We go to Kenya to do some pre-deployment training now, which kind of it's a different type of heat, but it does get you used to the type of temperatures you're going to face when you're in Afghanistan. So it's good training, but until you're there, you know, wearing the kit in the stifling heat, it's hard to imagine how hard it is, really. You know, and you can be in contacts for quite a long time. Contacts, I mean, you know, with the enemy. You know, you're running around skirmishing or whatever, and it does require quite good levels of fitness. You know, you don't really appreciate it until you're there, how fit you are when you deploy, and it's all for a good reason, because when you get there, it makes life a lot easier. But I mean, I'm sure you can imagine it, you know, yourself wearing 80 pounds plus of kit in 40 plus degree heat, running around after someone that's trying to shoot you. It's pretty tough, yeah. So you know, you do sweat quite a bit, to say the least. You know, so yeah, it's very tough. It's again probably one of the biggest challenges is the climate out there. When I was out there in 2007, it was during the winter tour, so it was over the Christmas, and I think it was one of their coldest winters in something like 40 or 50 years, and it was getting down to sort of minus 14 on an evening, which for me was a massive shock. You know, kind of weren't prepared for those sort of temperatures. I think that in Kabul, where the mountains are up in the Hindu Kush in the north, they kind of expect those sort of temperatures, and you're prepared for it. Down in Helmand, it was a bit of a shock. You know, it was a freak winter, so that was quite tough dealing with the cold. You know, so they do have extremes of weather. So just if life isn't hard enough out there, that you've got to deal with that as well. So yeah, the weather is a massive challenge, and getting the kit right, hydrating yourself enough, or being warm enough is in the opposite end of the scale is a massive challenge. But you learn quite quickly to adapt to that, really, and you kind of deal with it, and you do acclimatise as well. You know, certainly in the heat, after about 3 or 4 weeks, you do get used to it, and that's why you train so well. I mean, although you might do a 6 or a 9 month tour, your actual build-up training is probably about the same amount of time. So actually, by the time you deploy on these tours, you're so well trained and you're fit, and you're motivated and you're ready to go, that actually it's a seamless transition into the tour. You know, so yeah, you're more than prepared because the training package is so good. Oh, I'll do a full career with the regiment. So like I said, I've done 18 years now. Your contract's sort of 22 years, but they allow you what they call versatile engagement at the end of that, so you can do an extra 2 years. So effectively, got 6 years left in the army. So I'll do the full term. I can see me doing it certainly for the foreseeable future, because there's a bit of scope for promotion in the job, and it's an exciting and sort of a variety filled job as well. So again, I'm not always doing the same thing. So certainly for the foreseeable future, I can see myself doing it. And I've been doing the job for about 2 years now, and it's proved quite successful. I'm fairly good at it without blowing my own trumpet. So I'd like to continue doing that for the foreseeable future. Certainly, yeah. It's quite a complex structure, really. What we've got, we have guys who are Coldstream Guards who are in recruiting centres across the country. So army career centres. For example, there could be someone in Sunderland or Exeter or wherever, and what they do is they approach their schools and colleges around the area, or any shows that are happening in their area, and they use their contacts to send us along as a team. And we bring various things to the party. Like we can do things like we do team building days, or we've got bits of kit like we've seen outside there, like a BB range, or just things that you can interact with the local community. And basically, in a lot of ways, you give them a taste of what army life is like. So you basically you're not forcibly recruiting them. You're just saying, oh, this is what we do, this is who we are, and you're giving them a flavour of what you do, and you just let them make their mind up. I think the army as a package, in terms of recruitment, sells itself. Because it's an exciting life. It's got competitive pay. I don't have to go into the whole spiel, but I think the package, it sells itself to a young man or woman. Why would you not want to be in the army? As far as I'm concerned, it's great. So yeah, that's what we do. Basically, we go around all over the country, encouraging people to join the army. A memorable experience. I think, like I said, I think everywhere you go, whether it's a school or college, you always connect with people. Or you might get a lot of sort of veterans who you see out and about. Just the connection with the public on a routine basis is what makes the job worthwhile for me. And all of that's memorable. I know that sounds like a bit of a corny answer, but every time you come into contact with the public and you get a positive reaction or sometimes a negative one, I just think they're all good life building experiences, and they're all pretty positive generally. It's just a really fun, enjoyable job. Well, because my surname's Dryden, I used to get called Dry, and then when I became a medic, they called me Dr. Dry, kind of like the rapper Dr. Dre. So that's where I got Dr. Dry. Bit cheesy, but there you go. What do I think of the experience of being interviewed? Well, quite interesting actually, because I've covered areas that I haven't really, you don't really speak about on a daily basis. So it's kind of got my mind going back to the types of things that I've done. I think it's important to review these things every now and then. I've got, yeah, you see some pretty horrendous things on tour, but I've also got some fantastic memories, and the lads I was with and the people you help. So I think it's good to review your experiences, and hopefully I've been of some use to you as well. Giving you a bit of an insight. But yeah, I've enjoyed it. It's been quite good.